Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by BetMGM. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me right after the conclusion of Florida's overtime win in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final is Nick Martin. Nick, we have a series. We're hoping for one. Florida's plus 210 to win the Stanley Cup. Now Vegas minus 260. And the money line for Game 4, Saturday night, 8:20 p.m. puck drop. Florida minus 125, Vegas plus 105, basically in range of what we saw for Game 3. The over/under is set at 6. The juice is on the under, again, minus 120. Anything jump out at you right away?
I think my first ranked pick out of those options would be the under again. I think at 6, we're probably going to start seeing it settle in. Can't possibly see more power plays than we've seen thus far. And I mean, Florida's power play is not really going yet, but still. And then, yeah, I think that's probably giving Florida enough credit for what they've done. Although, they're hanging in pretty well at even strength. There'd be a pretty clear avenue to them playing better if they could just, not take a penalty every 4 minutes. And like from a handicapping perspective, that has made these games weird. Like tonight's game really didn't have much flow. The first 2 periods for sure were a little ugly, but we got the result we wanted, and I'm definitely happy that we're headed to game 4 at 2-1.
Yeah, I actually don't hate going back to the 60-minute draw, because once again, like I think Florida, whether they meant to do it or not, and like the recipe for success here was to slow these games down and as the best they can and try to ugly it up and turn it into some more low event hockey than anything. I think there were 8 total shots on goal in the first period or something like that, and there were power plays, so it's not like there wasn't some space. But Florida did a really good job protecting the house, I thought, in the early going, and Bobrovsky was really good. Adin Hill, I mean, he'll say he wants that overtime winner back for sure, but he was fine. He made some big saves early on when Florida seemed to be pushing it. Still think that there's probably an opportunity to bet against Hill in one of these games, and maybe the goal kind of unspools his yarn, so to speak, because he's got a couple nights to think about it now. But like you, I think that bets correlated to the under are probably the way to go here. You had a play on Brandon Montour to score as an anytime goal scorer. He delivered. I thought Gus Forsling, he didn't have scoring chances, so to speak, but he had chances to turn plays into scoring chances, which I liked. And he was 9-1 to score anytime, and I'll probably be back on that again for Game 4. Is why I think Barkov too at this point is probably worth playing in the anytime market. Anything else for you here for Game 4, player props or otherwise?
No, I think you touched on most of the props there. I actually really agree with you. Regulation tie, I think, is another good bet. And it's just one of those things, once you start knowing the games are going to be close, out of the 3 regulation options, it almost becomes like my preferred one. So like I think when you're talking about getting plus 320, when it's so likely to be a 1-goal game in one direction, I think I could maybe see Vegas sharpening things up and blowing it up. But I don't know, Bob looked sharp again, and at some point, you'd think Florida playing this decently at even strength is gonna pay off. So I think that those 2 are my favorite, probably the under and the overtime look. And yeah, shots, like I don't think you want to bet shots in this series right now. It just seems like a reach, unless you're going to bet some unders, which I think even then they've been pretty juiced. So I think those markets are just kind of tough right now. So yeah, I agree with you. I like those, like Barkov, I think could live with Duclair as well too. But I'm starting to get a little less into those just because of the fact that I'm not as confident in it being a higher scoring game. And then, yeah, the one look too, like I thought Kachuk, kicking myself because I thought Kachuk was going to have a good game which, I mean, he came through the goal and an assist, so he did. And I thought the power play point was a good look because I was sure that they were going to get a lot of power plays and that they were due to break through on that front. And it was quite literally the exact worst way to target Kachuk tonight because this is the one area where they really didn't get it going. So I don't know. We'll see where those prices go, but I could get sucked in again. But yeah, I think that's it. I think probably under and overtime are my favorite two bets.
Cool. Yeah. Back on the overtime train, and in all likelihood, back on the Gus bus. Kicking myself because I didn't bet Montour first goal scorer. I was looking at it, and I was like, he just had, the kid. Everybody was talking about it, and you just knew that if he scored, everybody would just talk about dad strength.
And on top of that, too, it's such like a perfect coinciding of both things. Because when I looked at his stats since the last time he scored, I was like, how is this possible? Because he's
40
still like
shots. Yeah.
all over it every game. So it's like, of course, tonight's the night that one of them just flutters in. So well deserved for him. And
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him follow it up. And then the other one, like the Conn Smythe's getting a little interesting because how much are they going to overweight like Kachuk getting another huge goal and an assist? Like I'm going to keep my eye on that definitely, depending on how the next game goes too.
I'm
I
crossing my
don't think
fingers
there's
there.
much there yet. And I mean, Bob was still pretty crucial tonight, but
Yeah. No, but I think we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if they just opened tomorrow because Marchessault scored again. He's going to be odds on as long as the Knights are favored to win as much as they are. I wouldn't be so shocked if we wake up tomorrow or in a couple hours when the lines repost and Kachuk and Bob have the same exact odds, and it's now
yeah,
like a neck and neck race between the two of them. If Florida does pull the comeback, so I'll be having my fingers crossed for Kachuk there. And one thing also I wanted to note, this is, do you have anything else on Stanley Cup?
no.
Okay. NHL Draft real quick.
Okay, I like that.
Leo Carlson. I think he might start. I think there's a chance that we
Sliding?
see was it
Are
slide.
you
Yeah.
gonna slide? Yeah, I agree. I was starting to get that
So
feeling today too.
I'm ready to start circling Carlson going fifth overall. And I'm hoping it's a big number because he's odds on to go third. Um,
Or
and
are you thinking Will Smith
I
third?
think Will Smith ends up going third, and then we might see Michkov go fourth.
He better go fourth.
Yeah.
I
So
shouldn't say he better go fourth because I'm dreaming he drops to the Caps, but
yeah. But I have a feeling like, as we've said all along, like there's a big five in this draft, and it's been talked about that way. And it seemed like the one player that looked like had the most potential to fall out of the big five was Michkov because, um, at the risk of kind of painting this with a way too wide of a brush, there are just question marks about whether or not he'll come over from Russia and because his KHL contract runs through 2026, and you can read more about his story on your own. But it does seem like more and more people are kind of getting around to the ideas like you got to just draft this guy if he's still around at 3 or 4 or whatever. And so I have a feeling that we see so that could mean that the one guy that could drop that's worth playing to drop, because Smith is kind of priced as the fourth or fifth prospect, but Carlson could go second, third, fourth, or fifth, and I think he'll be a pretty big number to go fifth. So keep an eye on Leo Carlson to go fifth overall. That's my quick little spiel.
yeah, I've been watching keenly to see like when some of these alt lines open up on more of the shops for just like specific player to go in specific spot, because it's one of those things. I agree, like it's you can't pinpoint exactly, but there's going to be some where it's like guys 5-1 to go somewhere, and then you can probably nail that down. I did read, or was it Friedman who said somewhere, I saw loosely reported that San Jose's ownership's not very keen to not have that player there, which I don't know if that's very accurate or what the legitimacy of that is. I think you have to just take Michkov and live with it. I know a lot of people are seeing this, but it's like basically, unless you think Russians aren't going to come over in 3 years, then I think you just take the risk, right? And I
Yeah,
guess he could make $1 zillion more to stay in the KHL past that contract, but still, I don't think you can just pass up on a guy like that,
no,
even with the guys that are. And that's why I don't think he ever falls out of this top 5 pack, just because that's where you start getting to a realm where it's like, I think you can live with not getting those guys. I can see the arguments for like, you don't want to pass on Will Smith, or you don't want to pass on Fantilli or Leo Carlson. But anything outside of that, I'm like, is he really going to drop to 6 or 7 or 8?
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, Leo Carlson is the one I'm circling to fall. There was talk of him going second, like I said, but it seems pretty set in stone that it's going to be Fantilli. And then Carlson's like -130 to go third overall. So
Yeah, and that did move quite a bit. I
yeah,
think like a decent rule of thumb is if you can get something just on any of them to go in somewhat of an outlier spot where you're talking about like 6-1, 7-1, that's where it could be a way to do it. Although I should say that I think it sounds kind of like Fantilli's getting locked in. But even then, I don't know. It's a little wild. I can't wait for it. I think this is the most excited I've ever been for a draft.
all right. That'll do it. So hopefully we see game 4 also go to overtime. That's Saturday night. We'll record again on Sunday. They're taking 2 days off, so we'll we'll connect again on Sunday night to record for Monday morning ahead of game 5, which is now 100% guaranteed back in Vegas. And like I said, they're taking 2 days off, so it's Tuesday night. And then you'll hear from us again after that game. And then until this thing ends, and then we'll probably start to wind things down. But we'll talk some more NHL draft because there is opportunities here. So for Nick Martin, I'm Michael Leboff. Thanks again to our sponsor, BetMGM. Thank you for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe. All that stuff. I don't say it enough, and I probably should. It's a dereliction on my part. Best of luck with all your bets for game 4.